You're listening to the Mopcast Network.
Welcome to My Star Wars Life, a look at news, reviews, and other happenings from a galaxy far, far away. Here are your hosts, Scotty and JD, and Drew Hall.
Hey everybody, I'm your Native American pop culture spirit guide, Scotty, and this is My Star Wars Life. So, as you know, we're kind of sheltered in place here across the country, and so we decided that we wanted to share some Star Wars news and talk Star Wars and, anything besides talking about that virus that's around. So we've decided we're going to just kind of get together and, share some Star Wars thoughts with you. And then we have a special guest too. But first, let me introduce my co-host. We have our Jedi Master himself, JD.
Hi.
How's it going, JD?
I'm laughing my ass off.
You all right?
Already, I'm done. I guess I haven't really heard the new intro where it's with your hosts, Scotty and JD. And Drew Hall, just sort of.
Okay. Full disclosure, I made that today from like two things that I had to make that real quick. So
I love it so much.
We'll have a formal one. And speaking of Drew, let's introduce Gillas over here, who puts the man to Mandalorian.
That's right. I've got right here. Got my own little wooden gimmick. I am. Maybe my name is now Andrew Hall. What do you think about that?
Andrew Hall?
It's not. It's just Drew, but I think it's always funny. The first time I heard it in the pre-show, I was like, "Oh dear God, that's fantastic!" I got super excited about it.
Because Andrew Hall, I get it.
Andrew Hall, you see what I'm saying? But what if I wanted to be Drew Hall? But Drew Hall.
I don't know. With Drew.
Oh, if I get a with, that's a special thing.
Withdrawal Hall. We can just put the whole name together.
No, it was the best I could do. She talked really fast. I'm not editing
with Drew Hall as co-host. That would give me the ultimate of all titles. That means I'm like the most important guy.
I'll work it out when the next time I pay her. We have a special guest. Let's get to the guest. How about that? Jake Stevens. What's up, Jake?
Hey, guys.
Jake's from Tazaka's, who is and a huge resource on all kinds of just Star Wars knowledge and especially toys. He's like me. We grew up together in the late 70s, early 80s, and we have he has a huge collection of just Star Wars toys that is just envious. He's a great guy. He's out on the West Coast. How you hanging up out there?
We're doing all right. I'm in the Seattle area, so also known as Ground Zero right now. But yeah, we're sheltering in place. We're here and lots of free time. I've been spending it organizing different collections and inventorying things and playing with my kids a whole bunch. So I can't complain too bad.
Have you found anything in your while you're cataloging? You're like, oh, I forgot I had this. This
isn't. Trying not to say this from a bragging perspective, but my Star Wars collection. My Star Wars collection is so big, I don't even want to start inventorying it. And so I've been doing everything but Star Wars because that's just, my Masters of the Universe took me 3 weeks alone. Transformers took almost all of January. I spent a couple weeks doing little lines that I have, like Care Bears and Centurions and Cops and Muscles and Mask. And so I've been trying to do I just broke out Kenner's Aliens and Predators this morning and put it on the dining room table. And that's going to be what I get to later on tonight. But I'm not even touching Star Wars for a while because it's like I'm in over my head when it comes to inventory.
That Aliens came out the time where I was transitioning out of playing with toys, but still wanting to buy them.
Yeah.
We, as a kid, in '88 when the movie came out, or '87 when the movie came out, we didn't have Aliens toys. And so, 5 years later, they start putting them out, and they don't look like, anybody from the movies. They're just like, and yeah, that is Apone and that guy. And then they had a cool guy, and I can't think of his name, but he was the guy who could pretend to be an alien. And
Atrax.
Atrax, and so he looked like he was, redheaded and Scottish. I don't.
You're talking about stuff I didn't know I had. I found a carded one this morning. when I pulled out that box. I'm like, I don't recall this at all, owning this, but I have it now. So I'm pretty happy. I'm debating how to proceed because I kind of want to get out of being a carded collector. I'm not a carded collector, but I have a lot of collections. I work a lot of toy shows. I go to a lot of toy shows. I pick up stuff. I also inherit. I'm lucky enough that people know I like toys, so they give me a lot of toys too that they don't want anymore. And so they take up a lot of room when they're in the package. So I'm at that weird place where I'm finding stuff that are vintage items that I don't want in the package yet. Why would I go on eBay and buy something I already have? I don't know. It's that weird spot where people don't like you opening vintage things. And some things I bought now in the 90s are technically vintage, not Star Wars vintage, but considered vintage because they're over 20 plus years old.
Right. Well, like the Power of Force line, the second one, 95. I mean,
that's more than vintage. Yeah, but I mean, don't dare say those are vintage figures. Otherwise you'll
but they're all buff. I mean,
but if you go back to the mid 90s, though, that was the era of the era of action figures at that point, right? I mean, if you take a look at I like to use the Antonio Banderas Zorro movie, right? Those figures, there's no reason for them to be buff, but they're ginormous when you look at them. Same thing when G.I. Joe tried to reinvent themselves at that time. They went G.I. Joe Extreme, and Extreme meant they all look like He-Man. So it was kind of the theme of the day, which thankfully didn't last too long.
So you are also a rarity that I know. You actually have some of your original toys.
I have all my original toys.
See, all. I didn't say all. I mean, yeah, all. And I noticed this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you and your kids playing in the original copy of your Life game?
Yeah, just a couple nights ago, I broke out my Life game that our family had from 1981, and we were playing it because it's just hilarious playing those old games when they haven't been updated. Because, a new home is $20,000, and it's just insane about the how different things are. And you have to get married. You have to stop and get married. Like that, you can't choose not to get married. It's interesting.
That's what I was about to ask. Is it a lot of weird quality issues all the way through it, and sort of and mom will be cooking in the kitchen here shortly,
right? It's completely outdated, but still plenty of fun.
You have hired Jose to work your garden.
Oh, terrible science.
1981. Come on,
that's true. That's true. 1981. Things were different then. Well, Jake, thanks for coming on the show. Let's talk some Star Wars.
Let's do it.
So we had some really big announcements with the Mandalorian in the last couple of days. Friday we have Rosario Dawson confirmed as Ahsoka Tano. That's lots to talk about there. Robert Rodriguez is going to be directing an episode, or has directed an episode, because I thought post-production was wrapped on this, but apparently it wasn't on season 2. And of course, as of today, Michael Biehn, Reese, Hicks from Aliens, as we were just talking about, and of course Johnny Ringo from Tombstone. So, how crazy is all of this?
I'm stoked.
I think it's
the Robert Rodriguez episode, because that means we're going to get Danny Trejo and Cheech.
Probably so. I mean, for me personally, it's more a matter of sort of looking at the star power element. That's what's got me all hyped up right now. Is we're bringing in more and more actors, because we don't see Pedro's face anyway, so we might as well get some recognizable faces, which I think makes it more, more exciting, more fun. And I think those actors all have ability to bring something to the table that I don't know, maybe we haven't seen before in the Star Wars universe. At least that's what I'm hoping for anyway.
I'll tell you, Michael Biehn is a very, very happy. If that rumor pans out, I'm very excited about that, because as we were just talking about Aliens, Hicks was a fantastic character growing up. And then plus also the fact that he's the original John Connor from Terminator. I mean, he to me holds the same power of kind of Carl Weathers. And Carl Weathers just brought a lot of love and life into that role in the first season. And it was just great. I actually had the opportunity to interview Carl Weathers last summer at the Washington State Summer Con that we have here in the Tacoma, Seattle area. And, he was just super excited about being in that role. And I can see Michael Biehn probably having that same energy since, he's not necessarily a household name in 2020, but he holds that 80s action star character still. And I'm pretty excited to see that. I hope that pans out.
I'm curious who he's going to play, though, or what he's going to play. So do you think he's going to be a smuggler, somebody on the fringe, or do you think he's an ex-rebel? I mean, there's so much he could. I mean, so versatile. He can do so many things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious. What he. So what would you like to see Michael Biehn as?
Oh, I love him. I want him as a hero character of some sort. I would love to see that, him being back in the spotlight. Seems like they do a lot of the comedy for the comedians, right? They put them as aliens, but then, hopefully they can, we don't have a lot of heroes in this line. I wouldn't mind even seeing him being a main character going forward.
I'm going to go with Scotty's conversation. We have a lot, which I think it'd be cool if he could play Cad Bane, if they just made him up and just went with it. I think his age and the sort of way he carries himself, obviously, as Johnny Ringo, I feel like it fits a little bit. We had a couple of comments I was going to throw up there if you wanted from Facebook group or people watching.
Yeah, please.
John David said, I wonder if Rosario will sing. And then, of course, he followed up, and we'll go back to that one. We followed up, but his Johnny Ringo was amazing, too, so we talked about that. But that's a question that's interesting. Rosario, do you think he'll sing? Will they work that in? If comedians get comedy, does Rosario get singing?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for Ahsoka the musical.
If she does, it better be Jackson 5 from the top of the Booby Palace from Clerks 2 with no bra. Just saying.
I don't know if we're going to get that kind of Ahsoka.
One hope. Hey, I called her. She made it. Let me just keep having it.
Yeah, so we have what was that?
I was saying hi.
So we also have kind of mixing stuff in. What is your take on that? That's one of the bigger things that we talked about earlier. I think it'd be interesting if each of us kind of talked about it, and we'll start with Scotty there. But what is your take on that, Scotty? I mean, we teased it up offline, and I know we have like some discussion, but the fact that she's landed in that spot, what's your take on her being Ahsoka? Obviously, that's my favorite character, so I don't know where I stand yet right now. So, Scotty, what do you think?
Well, I think it's good casting. It's something that fans have wanted since at least 2017. She's went on public saying that would be a role for her she would really enjoy doing, and so she's got it. The fans are, of course, they're split. We've got half the Rosario team, and now we've got people who wish Ashley Eckstein, and Ashley put a nice statement up this past weekend about it, and how she's she admits that there are a lot of people that make Ahsoka Tano not just her, she's just a voice, and there's a lot. She has nothing to do with the Mandalorian, and this is nothing made. So while it was a diplomatic statement, it seemed hurt, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. I mean, we've seen Ashley made up as Ahsoka. She looks great as it, but I think in the end, I'm okay with Rosario Dawson being Ahsoka Tano. I think I'm comfortable with that. I think that going forward it should be fun, and it's good to have separation. To have two of them, it's great. More Ahsoka. It's more Ahsoka.
JD, what do you think? What's your take on it?
As I said, I really love the casting. I've been, ever since she came out and said she'd be willing to do it, I've been on that train of please do it. I think it's going to be a little bit less of a role than we're all hoping or thinking. I think it's going to be more of the Ming-Na role. She was just in an episode touted forever. Ming-Na's now in 3. She's in the Marvel-verse, the Disney-verse, and in the Star Wars universe. So I think this is going to be a great publicity thing. I think we're going to see a little bit of her maybe in an episode, maybe 2, and then come back later on when Filoni ties everything back in.
Great, good deal. Jake, where are you standing on this, Jake?
I love Rosario. I think this is a great casting for her. I feel like she is a little more I just looked it up. Ashley Eckstein's 38 years old. Rosario is 40. But I feel like Rosario actually holds a youthful look. And I think at the age that Ahsoka is going to be coming out, post, Return of the Jedi, she's got to look a little more older than I think Ashley Eckstein does. I don't doubt that Ashley Eckstein's a little upset about that, because this is a character that she's helped give life to for a long time now. And it reminds me of when James Arnold Taylor was replaced on Star Wars Rebels as Obi-Wan. I mean, he took that real personally and was clearly broken up publicly about that. I think Stephen Stanton was the one that replaced him in Rebels as the older Obi-Wan, even though I think James Arnold Taylor does a fine older Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness. But Rosario Dawson, I think she's going to be great. I think she's proved herself in acting. She's proved herself in some, small action roles. I'm not sure that Ashley Eckstein has the same acting chops in live action. I know she's done some like Nickelodeon or Disney shows, but other than that, I don't think she fits what I see as a mature, older Ahsoka looking like. So I'm very happy with Rosario and look forward to it.
Yeah, I think I try not to make anything too precious anymore. Star Wars has hurt me sometimes. All 8 movies, and just for you, JD, working it in.
I want you to show me on the Kevin doll where Star Wars hurt you.
No, Kevin never hurt me. Kevin's delightful. Kevin's for sale, by the way, if anybody wants to buy him. I don't know the price yet. I have to ask my wife.
I just said show me on the doll, not that Kevin hurt you. I know Kevin didn't hurt you.
All right, Dr. Pervy. So I don't know. I watch it with my kids, so I'm excited that my little girls will have like a live action hero to get behind. They like Rey, obviously. So it would be nice if Daddy could get behind the same characters and enjoy it as much. I like, the new trilogy is what it is, or I'm sorry, 2 movies, duo is what it is. But I don't know. I hope that it's not just pandering for pandering's sake, and instead we get something really unique that adds to the story, which, again, just like our dollar bills say, in Filoni we trust. So I'm all about it. I'll unmute you, Scotty.
All right. So I think there's another angle to this too. So, Ahsoka is a popular character, but she's a popular character within the fan base, and not to people outside of the fan base or the casual Star Wars fan that actually knows who Ahsoka is. So this is another way of people who may know Rosario's work, who may not know Star Wars or may not know Ahsoka, a great way to bring new people in. With Ashley, I agree totally with Jake here that she's done, she's acted for Disney. She's done. She was on Myso Raven, yeah, for years ago, and mostly she's done voice acting work, which is still acting. I think with Rosario will have a little bit more star power, a little bit more drawing power to bring her in, to bring new fans in. So, which doesn't hurt. I think the Mando numbers are great. I don't think Disney's not really released them, but I don't think it's hurting for numbers. But I just think this is a good move for them.
I heard that it was the 4th most popular show of 2019. So
from a data standpoint, they announced like from a streaming standards, like the number of viewers kind of thing. Is that where?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've heard the same kind of thing, which I think is fascinating. That's all going to get jacked right now, right? Those numbers are out the window. Tiger King is currently the reigning champion of all content ever at the moment. My feed won't stop being it. I'm sorry, Scotty, hold on. What'd you say?
I just said it's crazy. Watch it. Tiger King, crazy.
Yeah, Tiger King's bananas. But it is a good point. I think Mandalorian will pick up some more steam. I mean, I think it grabbed a lot of different demographics. It grabbed everything from like fantasy fans to Star Wars fans to sci-fi heads. I even watched people in my like Facebook feed stop arguing about politics for 5 minutes to talk about the Mando. That's a pretty big deal. I think that's pretty transformative in terms of content, at least to me, that is.
So, let's continue the Ahsoka love here. We'll move it from Rosario to back to Ashley. The Friday was so filled with Ahsoka news. We got the new Clone Wars episode with Ahsoka, the 5th episode of the new series, and Ahsoka's back in this one. And I know I watched it. I don't think JD has watched it yet, but we're gonna spoil it anyway. I don't know if you watch the Clone Wars stuff. I'm not sure you do, JD.
Me?
I've watched like the first season and a half.
But so we get a lot of a lot of Ahsoka news on top of that. We've got the show, and then right after it was the rumor that hit and exploded the net. So kind of sad for to kind of crush that. I wish they would have waited to Monday. That would have been great. I would have rather had Rosario Dawson on Monday than Michael Biehn today. But you can't help how they all spread this. Things get leaked. But new episode was interesting. Ahsoka is they're exploring her the start of her post Jedi life. It's real shortly after she leaves the Order. She is now hanging out in the underground of Coruscant, which to me is fascinating always to see, because sometimes you forget it is a city planet. I'm very curious about how that all started. Like, it started building and didn't stop either. Thousands of years ago, we're like, we're just gonna keep going up, or did it start like as a station and then I don't know what the center at Coruscant is. I'm always been curious.
Well, if you read the books, you get down pretty far.
I know this episode they're at level 1313, which they have visited before. We almost got a video game on it.
Mm-hmm.
That got stopped, which is sad, but maybe they'll revisit it. So, for those of us who watched the episode, what do you think?
I'd seen the clip. I'd seen parts of this episode before, and I can't remember if it was an unreleased clip of what was to come, or if it was part of the animatics that they hosted up on Disney, StarWars.com for a while. Because the whole Bad Batch arc, they actually played for us at Celebration back in 2015. And then it was the animatic form. And then they hosted it, and they called it Clone Wars Legacy. And there was 2 or 3 4-part arcs that were hosted there for many, many years, only up until a couple months ago is when they yanked them. You can, if you want to go down a hole, you could still find them on YouTube, but they're not as widely around as they once were. So I had seen definitely like the clip with the speeder bike crashing. And that character was originally a boy that they switched. The first girl that she comes into contact with was actually a boy the first time around, but now they switched it to sisters. So yeah, it still wasn't anything too new for me, just like the Bad Batch arc was. It's nice to see it. I mean, the show is more beautiful than it's ever been. I mean, clearly it's just in the, 12 years now since the show's been around. It is night and day going from, that first movie to this recent arc. And it's just, the show is just gorgeous to watch.
Yeah, I found myself a little more fanboying over stuff just because, again, I like her content so much. So to have her just trickle in for me, and I had not even seen the Bad Batch, and these guys will tell you that's my jam. I love the best thing about the Clone Wars to me is the war movie aspect. I don't really care about Anakin. I don't care about Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, yes, but only later on. So for me to get those like great war stories I grew up on, like Where Eagles Dare, it kind of has that vibe to me. And so I just kind of like jumped in and was like 100% behind it. So I've enjoyed it. So it was a nice break to close that story, move on to hers. And correct me if I'm wrong, and pardon my memory, I'm not the brightest carrot in the bunch, but is there the first shot of her riding away on the bike, wasn't that the end of a shot from somewhere else? Was that not an end from another episode, like the original?
She walked away in her last arc, so she wasn't riding away. She was walking away from Anakin. So I'm not sure. Could be something else you're thinking of.
No, I think that ties it in. I just remember her. The last I remember seeing her was so emotional. I just remember it being like, wow, that was a really gut-wrenching moment in a cartoon. And then, of course, Rebels came out and floored everything. But in that moment, I just remember it being a very emotional peak for me. For somebody who doesn't care about animation, I was really into that.
The final episode of season 5 was her leaving the Jedi Council and choosing to go away from Anakin. And so, and that was, I was so annoyed by her when she first came out on season 1. I'm like, or in the movie even, I was like, no, Anakin never had a Padawan. It just did not make sense. It didn't link in my brain. And I was shocked. And this is where Dave Filoni does the slow burn. Over the course of the 5 seasons of Clone Wars, come that last episode, that very last episode where she chooses to walks away kind of into the sunset, I have tears streaming down my face. And I remember stopping and going, why am I crying? I hated this character. How did I get here? Because it was just not something I ever expected to like be emotionally kicked in the face with her leaving the order. So Filoni has a way of making you passionate about things without, making it so obvious. And I think he's really skilled at that. So it's great to see her back. And I think it'll be more exciting to see Rosario as her, because that will be brand new content, brand new content, not remastered.
Fresh Ahsoka, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got a couple of comments. I'm going to pop them up here.
Hold up. Can I just say I would love fresh Ahsoka? She can get fresh all she wants.
Like 90s style fresh, like popping fresh.
I don't even care.
Okay.
Like,
I'm changing your name to Fresh Ahsoka from that point forward.
Or if she wants to grab my butt. However she wants to get fresh, she can get fresh.
You've asked for it, and you've called it down upon yourself. You will now be known as Fresh Ahsoka from this point forward whenever I'm in control of the graphics. So, whatever. We did have a couple of Facebook comments. I was just going to throw them up here for discussion. One is from John David Harsey again. Sorry if I got your name wrong. This is in regards to Michael Biehn. Could his character be Jodo Cast? That was a conversation we once had.
Oh, breaking out the whole Jodo Cast. If we get Michael Biehn, I hope it's not with a mask. And Jodo Cast is a Boba Fett clone, and he's deep in legend. So I'm not sure they're willing to bring that out. I would say no. That's my gut feeling on that. No, I would see if he's going to be in anything, if he's any kind of makeup, it'd be Cat Bane. But I don't. He is in his 60s, and getting some of those old timers to put on makeup is tough. So, or of course they could do the switch around like they did with us in Nick Nolte, and suddenly he's like an Ewok or an Ugnaught or a Jawa or something, just the point, which I think would be a waste. But
I don't think they would. Yeah, I'm not sure if they would put this character or get a name character and put necessarily in a mask, because I don't know if you know this, but Pedro Pascal, his stunt double was 90% of his on-screen performance, because he was actually doing a play at the time and wasn't available, and so he did most of the work VO. Voiceover. And
it's like my favorite thing to bring up is the fact that the Mandalorian, and it's John Wayne's, one of them, his primary stuff was John Wayne's grandson, which is even more fascinating to me. It's like it fits better for some reason to me.
Yeah. But on the topic of clones, I don't think it would be too shocking to see clones come into Mandalorian next season.
All right, so I'm going to throw up another one here. Dan Geister said, I seen Ashley in the Brady Bunch in the White House movie recently as January.
Yes.
I don't know what it totally means.
Probably as Jan from the Brady Bunch, not as January. Just guessing.
Oh, yeah, recently as January. What kind of guy's running this show over here, man? What kind of idiot do you have in this box?
So Dan is amazing. Dan is my go-to guy. When one of the things I like to do on my website is to put appearances of Star Wars toys when they are featured in movies. And Dan is on a mission to watch 1,000 80s movies. And he has a long track, and he's trying to. And so what he does is, because he's going through watching so many of these older movies, he's sending me clips every once in a while of like, hey, did you see that in this 1982 movie, there's an AT-AT in the background, and I just love it. So he would know. He's a movie master when it comes to vintage movies.
It reminds me of that scene from the movie PCU. Do you remember that movie? The guy's like Michael. He's trying to look for Michael Caine movie on at the same time. You guys don't know this movie, PCU?
Was it Tom?
I love that movie.
PCU is great. And Dan, if you're still watching, you're welcome on our other podcast show. Me and Drew host one called The Catacombs, which is a deep dive, really weird movies. We'll find you some fun, evil, weird 80s movies to come watch with us. We'll have you on that show. You'll have a blast. What's
You're
the weirdest?
Muted, Scotty.
What's
Gimmicking something here. Sorry.
Can you hear me now? So, Jake, on the for your website, what's the strangest Star Wars story you've seen in the background of a movie?
Oh my gosh! Well, there's some. There are some UK shows that use old Kenner blasters as like sci-fi weapons. I think that's pretty awesome. A lot of people don't know that one of the Borg guys in Star Trek. Oh my gosh, not Nemesis. Nemesis. I think it's Nemesis. Is Nemesis with Borg? Is that right? The Borg are in Nemesis.
First Contact.
First Contact. Wow, I can't believe I made that mistake. Sorry. I guess it's Star Wars podcast, so I can make that mistake. But in First Contact, one of the Borg eyes is a TIE fighter cockpit. They actually use. There's so many out there. I mean, I have a whole database, and I'm actually backlogged. I have tons of submissions that I haven't even uploaded yet. But Silent Night, Deadly Night has a huge scene in a toy show or in a shopping in like a, I don't know, big box store, and you see vintage Jabba the Hutt play sets behind them. Man, I'm just thinking.
So is this pardon me for my ignorance, is this a website that you have this setup where we can find the clips, or is it searchable, or what is?
So my website
I'll
is
peddle it for you.
My website is from forlomtozuckus.com. And if you go under, I think it's featured sections, there's lights, camera, action figures. And that's a section on the site that I keep track of all Star Wars toys that are in the, that have come across my path.
Is that a sequel to From Justin to Kelly?
Oh man, that's a oldie but not goodie.
Is it? Pardon my ignorance. Is Zuckus Z-U-K or Z-U-C-K?
Z-U-C-K U-S-S. Yep.
Why don't you tell us the origin of Forlom and Zuckus? Because some people may not understand that. I get the reference, but
yeah,
I think it's great.
So my website is dedicated to Star Wars action figures, and kind of like you pointed out, it's like from not Justin to Kelly, but from like A to Z. So what I try to do is provide, references and information and checklists and guides and databases for just about anything Star Wars action figures. And that's what I've been doing for many years now. And the name comes from, of course, two bounty hunters that are in Star Wars, Forlom and Zuckus. But the reason those two are significant is because in Kenner, when Kenner put their names on their cards, they named them backwards. So Forlom was actually supposed to be the robot, and Zuckus was supposed to be the tan alien. But Kenner switched them. And back then, we didn't have the internet to correct everything that ever happens. And so what happened is a whole generation of fans grew up with them being named opposite. And it wasn't until the 90s that the role play books started to come out and people started to go, wait, this is their actual name. And it's actually for LOM. And the LOM stands for love of money because he's a bounty hunter. And that's what George Lucas's idea was. So, yeah, the idea is from Forlom to Zuckus is a play on from A to Z, but also the play on that Forlom's name was actually changed to Zuckus or corrected to Zuckus over time. If that makes sense.
Awesome. That's cool.
I had always heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, and because but I had heard that since Forlom / Zuckus originally was a mail away offer for Empire, right? That's where he got his name from Kenner, not from Lucasfilm. For the love of money, because of an inside joke because of the redemption. That was the first time he was named, right?
Now I've never heard that. I've never heard that connection. What I've heard is, actually, you know who would know, is the Kive cast. Sky and Steven do a Star Wars website that's dedicated toward vintage Star Wars action figures, just vintage. Now, I do vintage and modern, so there's way more modern than vintage, so I spend most of my time on modern. But they go deep dive. Each episode goes into the deepest dive you could possibly do about a vintage Star Wars figure, and they go in order. And they've been going on for years. And when they got to Zuckuss and when they got to Forlom, they do the name of the origin of the character in the movies, their first appearances, the designers, the molds. I mean, it's massive. So I'd have to go and revisit that. But I'm pretty sure, from what I've heard, George came up with the idea of Forlom, meaning for love of money. And Zuckuss, I know in the script treatment, was actually, I believe, Tuckus. It was either Tuckus or didn't start with a Z, but it had the rest of the name. So yeah, Kivecast, you can go deep, deep into these figures if you wanted.
I would have said it as Tuckus, which is what I tell my kids, like, get off your Tuckus, you little maggots.
We actually had to go back to the Clone Wars episode. We did get a little bit of a Kenner love in that. They showed the original Walrus Man and a couple other characters that we've seen before in Clone Wars. But it's good to see a little nice nod back to the Kenner action figures.
Yeah, I mean, you got the 4 vintage Kenner aliens in there. You got Ponda Baba. You got Greedo in his green outfit. You got, I believe, Blue Snags was in there, and Ponda Baba, Walrus Man. So it was a great nod.
Correct me. I think you started with Ponda Baba.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
My bad. Then the last one is Snaggletooth. Ponda. And Hammerhead. Sorry, I missed Hammerhead.
Gotcha.
Hammerhead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. Hammerhead. I was like, Hammerhead. So that's good. I like when they do that. I love when they do that. Like in Rebels when we got the Imperial Transport, and then of course in the Mandalorian we get the Imperial Troop Transport, which is amazing. I've already got mine pre-ordered, but with this going on, we probably won't have to see it until the end of the year. But I'm looking forward to it. It's a cool toy. It's expensive, but it was worth it. It's one of those childhood dreams. I've always wanted one. Like a tool around it. That would be awesome. So, last thing before we jump from Ahsoka, I'd like to speculate a little bit. So, with Rosario in the Mandalorian, how far do you think this is? Is this after the Rebels coda or before the Rebels coda? So, is this before she goes off with Sabine, or is this after she's come back?
Ooh, that's a good question. That is a very good question. Well, no, let's see. We'd have to do the math. When there was a child, right? There was a child there with Hera, of course. How old was that kid? I mean, that would give us a time frame a little bit of how far this would take, right? Because if the original trilogy, if Rebels took place leading up to, within a year or two of A New Hope, and then there was a kid a few years later, right? Well, how old was that kid? 9, 10 years old? I think you're muted.
I don't think he's that old. I think Jason is, he has to be born right after the destruction of the Death Star. So, yeah, and so if 9 months works for Twi'leks as well they do as humans, I'm just speculating there. And so, what's the time difference between a New Hope and the end of Jedi? And that's kind of where you get, and then you can add
3 years, right?
Is it 3 years? So he's anywhere from the end of Jedi. So he's at least 3 to 5, maybe, or 3 to 8 if we're doing 5 years later, which puts him in the Mandalorian era.
Hold up. Last time you both railed me that there were 3 years between each movie.
That was release of their releases.
They were telling me between each movie there was 3 years of canon time, and I told you it was wrong. And now the guest comes in and says it, and you're like, okay, this is bull. I'm just saying.
A little sibling rivalry happening here. What's up, Fresh Ahsoka? Why are you so angry? I can't even spell your name, apparently. Doesn't matter. Just let me be. Just let me just write words. I just type
anyway,
it out.
Thank you, Jake.
There used to be... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I thought that my take on it, though, is that I think it takes place before she's gone back to Sabine. That's my theory. I think this happens in a window of time pre-Sabine. So I don't think what.
Well, I was going to say, I think I told y'all I read an article Sunday saying they're looking at casting Sabine.
Yeah, but that's not confirmed yet. Until they confirm.
No, but if we're looking at the grand scope of supposition and
but that's like the coronavirus came from Mars.
We've got to speculate on all the rumors out there, right? We've got to get in there, open up all the different rumors, and speculate.
You know, that brings up a good point. That's the one thing I don't want to see Mandalorian be is the sequel to Rebels and Clone Wars. I love tying in pieces, but man, I think that deserves its own chapter, its own beast. You know, the rumor is Lucasfilm's working on 2 different animated series right now. So I'm hoping one of those is the Ezra, Ahsoka, Sabine story. And this would be a great launching point for that, but I don't want Mandalorian to sway too far from the Mandalorian, Din, and the child.
I agree. We had talked about this a few weeks ago on a previous podcast about how Lucasfilm was working on other animated series, and Reddit had a great rumor mill about it being the Rebels sequel. It's not officially going to be called Rebels, but it's following the adventures of Ahsoka and Sabine, and they are well into production from what I've understand, and it have to be, what we've been reading. And of course, Reddit rumor, you take it with a grain of salt, but sometimes they're right. We're looking toward the end of the year. I'm not sure how much the virus situation is going to push everything back, but they were on track to at least releasing at the end of the year. So we really need to have a tie-in. So by the time you get ready to start running Mandalorian episodes in November, coming December, you've got your live action Ahsoka and your animated Ahsoka right together at the launching point. It's perfect marketing.
I also think that the gap too, though, is that if they can use this as, let's say it is happening, let's take Fresh Ahsoka's take there, that this is actually going to happen, and we're going to have a live action Sabine cast. I think what could occur from that is that we'll see maybe they're headed off to find Ezra, and it's that little gap, and we're just getting an offshoot of it. So it'll be like a single episode sort of like nod. And there'll be an interaction. I don't think they would waste casting somebody at that high profile in that role without using it. I think that also means, though, that not going to be in the show very much, and potentially that Carl Weathers will not be in the show as much as well, as they're spending that money on Rosario, who, in my mind, public eye is a much bigger figure, has probably a bigger audience than those two. So she probably costs a little bit more money. And then Michael Biehn being thrown in the mix is definitely going to offset it. So I have a feeling we're going to see a whole new space away from that chapter or series of chapters, and maybe go from there. Go ahead, JD. I'm sorry.
No. I just want to interject now. I don't know how much, and I'm not saying this to denigrate Michael Biehn at all, because he's great, but he was at Pensacon, right? So I don't know that he's getting top dollar right now. I don't know because I haven't seen him in anything since that weird bad Wesley Snipes movie.
So a little inside baseball. Are you a big Steven? Do you stay current on all Steven Seagal movies? No, he still sells like crazy overseas. So Steven Seagal has equity.
Okay.
Again, not being just inside baseball from my side.
Art of War. That was the bad Wesley Snipes movie.
Yeah, that's an old one. Dolph Lundgren still has equity in the same thing. And, aside from being a super genius and a nice guy, it's the same kind of thing. I think there's there's an international equity to Michael Biehn just because the iconic roles we all listed at the very front. Those are iconic. How many action figures does that guy have? I'm just curious.
I mean, like I said, I don't want to take anything away. I've loved him in everything I've seen him in except Art of War. But like, I'm just wondering. I mean, we haven't seen anything in recently, right? Like, he hasn't been Michael Biehn of the '90s.
Well, nor has I mean, a lot of people are. Hollywood reinvents itself, man. It's like wrestlers. Like they disappear for a while, then somebody cuts a good promo, and next thing you know, they're on top. No, okay. You don't buy that?
No, I'm fine. We saw the McConaughey-sance or whatever you want to call it, the Keanu-sance. I mean, it happened to Bruce Willis with Pulp Fiction. I mean, and John Travolta. So I mean, I get it.
Keanu is a really prime example of somebody weirdly, somebody really reinventing themselves in a way that's like kind of mind blowing. I mean, he went from real obscurity, a bunch of failures. I mean, his movies were all bombs, and then suddenly turned around the Wick films are worth that franchise is worth tons of money. And then his name again, like on the internet, he's become a darling. Maybe the same thing happens to Michael Biehn. He shows up, he's cool, he's Cad Bane or somebody, and he becomes an internet darling again. That's all it takes is one Redditor to say something great, and that's it. That's how you launch your career.
Scotty, you brought up an interesting point about the timing of Star Wars media, because not only because of the whole world shutdown right now and everyone hanging out at home, but also just the fact that we're kind of we're back to 2006. And 2006 was a really uncertain time because at that point Star Wars was dead again and we didn't have Clone Wars. So we had 2 years where there was like virtually no media out there for Star Wars. Thankfully, Hasbro kicked it into high gear and did a lot of anniversary stuff and really kept, I think, for collectors, Star Wars alive quite a bit in 2006. But here we are now in 2020, where media is now shrunken down to the small screen because the movies are in kind of a holding pattern. It seems like, even though Disney released their slate, I think it was about a month ago, they released their slate and they still have those trilogy of movies on there. We don't really know what the future is with those in particular. Like, are they Rian Johnson? Are they someone else's? Are they High Republic based? Are they going forward? Who knows? So the question is, how will they space out their Star Wars media on the small screen going forward? Because we know that Mandalorian comes back. I think they said it's going to be in October this time, right? October. We have Clone Wars now. It's going to finish up in about a month once they blow through the rest of their episodes on a week-to-week basis. We have Ahmed Best, who has a game show coming out for Disney Plus. That, as far as I can tell, and there's not been a lot of information about this, it's a game show within the Star Wars universe, because there's people on there that are set to play like Padawan contestants and stuff from the Jedi Temple. So it's unique and cool idea. I think
it's like the grown-up version of, maybe it's for kids, but I think it's like the more expanded version of the Jedi Temple thing at Disney, where you get to fight Vader and stuff. I think it's kind of crossed out a little bit of Double Dare and those other Nickelodeon fun, game show stuff, and kind of like a Kid Ninja Warrior with Jedi stuff.
Yeah, it sounds great, but they haven't released any news on that, on a release date. They just said it would be sometime this year. And then we also know that, Clone Wars is, of course, coming to an end. No dates on the animated or upcoming projects. They just started Galaxies of Adventures again, but that's a Star Wars kids YouTube channel series. The only thing that we really know of that they have in their back pocket that they've not done anything with, no word of, is Star Wars Detours. And that was the old, Seth Green show that is now in forever limbo.
The thing about that is that it's completed. There's 24 episodes at least, and they're done. And they got shelved right prior to the Disney sale. And so, they have been in limbo. I was just thinking about that earlier, about what other things that like Disney could release while we're under. Detours would be great. It would, it's something they don't have a lot invested in. It's already paid for. and so there's not a lot of advertising. It's funny. The thing is that it doesn't feature the sequel trilogy because it was prior, and so that may be the strike against it, where Disney really wants to focus on the sequel trilogy, and that's its new product. I mean, I don't blame them at all. So I don't know if they want to go back and rehash it as much. So I'm curious, but I'm with you. I think I would love to see Detours. The clips I've seen of it's hilarious. It's something that's great, but there was a decision made that they didn't want to make fun of Star Wars anymore, and so it got shelved right prior to the sale. So I was looking forward to it.
Because Disney didn't want to, now that they had owned this new property, right, that they paid $4.2 billion for, they didn't want to introduce a new generation of kids to the Star Wars characters in such a hammy or cheesy way, right? They wanted people to fear Vader. And since, they're making Rogue One, and Rogue One makes Vader to be out a complete badass, right? Almost more so than he is in the original trilogy. You want that fear aspect to Vader, and you're not going to find that if kids are growing up with him, in Detours, where he looks like, akin to he would on a Star Wars Lego show, corny character. So I heard that was the reason they wanted to shelve it. Now that there's no media, now that Vader's essentially, from what they've said, is not going to be a character that's going to be involved in future, movies and major productions, why not release this series now? Right? Not let us get this, comedy treatment to Star Wars. I mean, there's tons of comedy treatments out there already. I mean, you got the Family Guy series, you got the Robot Chicken series, you've got Simpsons tributes.
The Muppet Babies.
Muppet Babies were a mainstay. They always featured clips.
I agree with you. There hasn't been new content of that in a long time. We haven't had the parody content or the official parody content or the homages as much. The last one I can think of was Phineas and Ferb, and that's a Disney property, and they did us their Star Wars spoof on it. But after that, I mean, it's not been as spoofed as much. Disney's really trying to keep this as serious.
Well, Freemaker Adventures was essentially a spoof show. I mean, it was a great show. It was fun, but it made fun of those characters a lot,
Like Lego Star Wars is the same thing. And so, what is the 3PO retelling, or the Lego 3PO retelling the entire trilogy? It's
Droid
silly.
Tales.
But I think it's safe because it's within Disney's realm of doing it. Detours is prior to that, so I'm not sure if they're really what. I mean, I'm with you. I want it out, but I can see from a Disney point of view where they just want to protect the property and just let this quietly get forgotten again. We'll never forget. So
we haven't forgot the special, the holiday special. So we don't forget.
Have you gone back and tried to watch it? I tried. It's almost like torture. I
watch it every year. Every year. Oh yeah,
I can't get more than like 10 minutes. It's like torture for me.
The Seattle, I'm part of the Seattle collecting group up here called Sarlacc, and we have every November we have a holiday special party, and it's themed, and people have in the past dressed up, and we show the show, and we have drinks, and it's just we embrace the holiday special up here because it's just so wagadoodle.
Makes total sense to me. I'm coming, Scotty. There you go.
I haven't seen. I've seen the special more. I used to watch it every year. I've done the last couple of years. I used to do showings of it. I have not gone back and watched Caravan of Courage or Battle for Endor in a long time. We had some of the actors from that come to Pensacon. I got some autographs for that, which was pretty cool. But I kind of want to go back and revisit both of those and do that. Maybe we'll do that all together as a podcast. It'd be fun to talk about. That and the Droids cartoon. I think when I was with you, I picked it up the DVD. No, it wasn't with you, but I was in Seattle last year. I picked up the first DVD of the Droids cartoon. I guess it has the first movie and a couple episodes on it. Droids is great. I haven't seen it so long.
I would rather Droids is better than Ewoks. The Ewoks is just it's bipolar. First and second season are completely different, essentially. Even character designs and themes and everything. The Droids is more based in Star Wars, as we know. The stormtroopers and